The intro is the most important part of anything, as it decides if someone's willing to stick around. Rebel Transmute had me sticking around, but not because of the story, but because of the music in the opening cutscene. And once I got to play as Moon, I got to feel the fluidity of the controls, and from there, I knew I was in for a good time. Just for a quick rundown, you're playing as Moon Makono, who has set off to find her mother a year after the research facility she worked at blew up. Since then, the world has become inhabited by life forms that seem to be unnatural, but it also gave rise to a friendly group of robots that were given souls. There's still a lot left to the story to be unraveled, and I was intrigued by the little amounts of information that I did get, but nobody really plays a Metroidvania just for the story. The atmosphere of Rebel Transmute is absolutely gorgeous, and it captures that sense of loneliness by making you genuinely question where you are and what's going on. The music complements this, as it's not overbearing, but more atmospheric and matches the aesthetic of the spacey background. As you begin to explore the surface labs further, you'll run into some odd-looking enemies. However, due to the current condition of the planet and the atmosphere, they feel as if they belong, you just don't know why. There's also these pulsing blocks that are reminiscent of Axiom Verge, and even though it's strikingly similar, I still didn't mind it as they feel organically connected to the planet. And something else I loved were the plants you would find on the surface that would occasionally house some enemies. It's just another small detail to immerse you within the game, and even though you have that sense of loneliness as you explore, it's nice to know there's a small community of robots you can strike up some conversations with or even purchase some items from. During my time with the demo, I felt like I built 3 separate relationships with some of these bots, and there's even some humor thrown into the dialogue which adds some characterization. More than likely, these characters will be reoccurring throughout the game, however, I doubt they will physically help you with anything. Now to go back to that robot that you can purchase items from. You'll find augmented abilities to add, as well as some health upgrades, which you can also find hidden within the world. And in my experience, there seems to be a lot of secrets to find to help you gain storage in your suit, which allows you to hold more abilities. Similar to Hollow Knight, you can only make adjustments to your playstyle at a save station. Some of these include changes to your HUD, the way you might regain health, how your gun operates, and more. The more augment space you have, the better abilities you can use. I began the game with 3 to use and ended up with 4, which allowed me to use an upgrade where I could basically shoot non-stop, but it was at the expense of the method of healing that I preferred. The combat in Rebel Transmute is definitely unique, but to paint a more solid picture, it's more closely related to Hollow Knight than it is Axiom Verge. When you attack an enemy, your character is kicked back, so you have to be careful around edges and stay aware of your surroundings. I personally enjoy this combat style as it makes each attack feel that much more impactful. You can also do a slide to quickly evade enemies or obstacles, however, I didn't find myself using it much except for against the bosses. The 2 that I got to face were both challenging and felt very different from one another. During my fight with Grey Matter, I found myself dying plenty as I tried to understand his attack patterns. I also loved the slight build up to the battle as well as the unique soundtrack with it. Grey Matter had about 4 different attacks, but increased the pressure halfway into the fight, so I had to react quick and capitalize when I could. I found Carapace to be even more challenging, and this is where I used the slide move more than anywhere else in the game. The build up to this fight was fantastic, and I love that the music was just a faster paced version of the enemy fight scenarios. Between these 2 bosses, I'm very excited for what else is in store. But back to the demo side, once you defeat Grey Matter, you obtain an ability that allows you to damage metal enemies as well as break the pulsing blocks. So it allows access to areas you couldn't get to before, which is where I did most of my exploring and is typical of a Metroidvania. However, I found the exploring to be a great balance of not too linear nor too broad. So you'll definitely want to try to find the hidden secrets, and you may have to get past some tricky platforming obstacles or a barrage of enemies. Rebel Transmute has everything that you would look for in a Metroidvania. It has the exploration, the challenge, the immersion, the bosses, and everything else. But I think most importantly here is that even though it takes concepts from other games, this feels like a brand new experience that I'm very eager to play. Unfortunately, the release date is not until 2023, but keep your eyes open because I think Rebel Transmute will become something special.